Hey everyone, it's Confident, Courageous, and Clear with Sherry, and we are back for the one of the best episodes I think you're going to see ever, a Phoenix TV host mashup. Confident, Courageous, and Clear with Sherry and just Julie. Hey Julie.
Hey, how are you? You look beautiful as always. Um,
Oh,
I am so excited to be doing this collab with you because I know we did the book together that we co authored. I know that we shared a little bit about our stories, and I'm just really excited because we have so many similarities that we could bring and bring to the forefront, talk about. So I'm excited.
absolutely, me too. And y'all, that's the amazing thing about this is we're getting this opportunity to come right to you through your devices and share these great stories that can help you live your best life. And when we figured out that we really do have similar platforms, we just thought it would be amazing to try this out. So here we go. Julie, do you want to start with sharing a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, so my name is Julie Ramirez. My last name is Spanish. My husband is of Spanish background, but I'm West Indian. I am in my 40s and I am trying to make a go at one of the things on my bucket list, which is having my own show. And after 23 years, it's finally circled back in my life and I'm able to have the opportunity through Phoenix TV in order to do that and share my life with you guys. So I'm excited about that.
That is amazing. And you definitely don't look over 40, I promise. You look amazing today. Um, so I'm Sherry Dixon, and I'm a little older than Julie, but we were in the book Unleash Her together. I'm about to have my 52nd birthday here
Oh,
at the start of summer. I know I've been living for a while. And this is just one of those opportunities I always share with my audience that I promised myself way back when I was a kid and life was pretty challenging for me that I would always say yes to opportunities that aligned with my mission and vision. And when this one came along after the book, which was huge, and that was definitely one of
mhm.
my bucket list items, but this kind of just hit me out of the side, and I thought, why not? Let's try it out. But what I love about it is that we have that opportunity to share the stories and make the impact on the world because I knew I was going to do that when I was 6 years old. I've been a public school educator for the last 28 years. I'm currently an elementary principal, and I just really thought that pivoting into coaching and consulting would be something that just would work for me because I actually do a lot of that kind of work within the school systems. But now I can do it with women who may have had similar circumstances to me or going through some things that they just need that cheerleader, that mentor, that support person for them. So yeah, I'm super excited too. And it's just
Yeah, that's a great story. And what you said about helping people. My husband and I have our own business that we help people with their finances. Um, if you don't know a little bit about my story, I lost both my parents, and things just went kind of crashing down all of a sudden. And so I started that business just thinking, okay, maybe I can impact one person's life, not go through what I did. Very similar to you. And we've just been successful doing that. And so this is another way for me to share a little bit more about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk to us about the premise of just Julie. So, what kinds of things would the audience expect to see? Because my audience may definitely want to tune into your show.
Yeah. So I have a lot of different sides of me. I have that professional educator side, that, button up, serious, but I like to have a lot of fun. I like to be silly. I like to be sarcastic. I feel like sometimes I'm like the Michael Scott in the world,
Love that.
because it's fun. But it just, for me, the show is just about sharing different people and their stories, whether it's health, whether it's grief, whether it's depression, whatever topic it is, whether it's just girl chat, like you and I just chatting. I hope that it resonates with people and they feel like, okay, yeah, you know what, I could connect with her, or yeah, I went through that before and that really helped me. I know with our business we tell a lot of small stories, on Facebook, and that's really where I've been able to connect with people, is through those stories. And you just never know how something may hit somebody. So that's my hope. And how about you and your show?
Well, mine's a little similar. I will say I love a good story. I'm a storyteller at heart for sure. So I do like to bring in the stories as well. And the way I've kind of set my platform up is so that I can highlight women who have gone through some challenging times in life and really realize that the only thing that they really have control over is how they react. They can't control the situation, but they don't have to just say, okay, life has happened and now I have to live my life this way. I was one of those women. I found myself as a teenage mother years ago. My daughter's 32, and so many people in my world, that was a norm for them. And once it happened, then it seemed that they would give up. They would give up on pursuing college or pursuing that dream job they wanted, or whatever their goals and dreams were growing up, they would just, okay, this is just the way it is, and they would stay in our small town and just kind of let life determine their path.
Yeah.
And I was unique, I guess, in that sense, because I didn't want that. I didn't want that for me, and I definitely didn't want that for my daughter. So I
Mhm.
shared that story in the Unleash Her chapter, but also, it really is one of those defining moments that happened in my life, because that's when I knew I needed to make myself successful and I needed to find the ways to do that. And those are the type of women that I like to highlight on my show. And I
Have
actually
you?
just go ahead.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, have you always been like that? Have you always felt like that? I know I'm destined for better, because that's one of the things that I talked about. We came from a small town too. But one thing that you said that I know that I have had to work on is my reaction to things. Sometimes I get really stuck in the bad stuff that happens and I have no idea how to get out of it. So I was just wondering if that was something that you learned how to do, or were you always like that? You just always saw, the glass is half full.
That's a great question. And I think I'd have to really say I have been very blessed in my life, because I had a situation with my own mother, and we severed our relationship ties when I was young. And when you don't have a lot of, I have family back in my hometown, but just when you're different than everybody else, then you don't have a lot of people that you can go to and talk
Yeah.
to about, I have this idea, I have this dream, I have this goal, I want to go make this happen. My family's always been very supportive of me, but because they've just not had those experiences, they just couldn't
Yeah.
really give me that advice. They couldn't be that mentor for me. But I actually met a woman when I was in the eighth grade. So I think that's when it really started. I was in eighth grade, and my parents were starting to have difficulties in their marriage, and she was my language arts teacher. And she told me, you can do great things in the world. And she always said, don't let your circumstances determine the type of person that you want to be. And honestly, Julie, she became a mentor to me that she and I still connect. She was the first person to read my
Wow.
chapter in the Unleash Her book. She got the first rough draft, because her input mattered to me. And she was there when my daughter was born.
That's
When
amazing.
I travel home, yeah, I've been so lucky. But I think that's the thing that I would say is it is a learned skill. It wasn't just, I mean, I always knew I was driven, and I'm very type A personality, and I want to accomplish all my goals, and I write checklists and things like that. But until you have somebody that can kind of guide you along the way and give you that path to know that you're not crazy, you're just, you're different, and you want to make things happen, and it's okay to do that. um, and then they cheer you on, when it happens. That's how I got out of it, I promise you. And then along the way, I just kept meeting people. I've always tried to be a networker, and just keep meeting people. They always say, surround yourself with the people that you want to be,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I think, I mean, that's a very good question. And it's just, I've never been asked that question before. So thank you for helping me, reflect on that. But
Yeah, because that's a tough one. Because I've got to be honest, like I come from a small town. We came from Queens, New York, to this tiny town in Florida. And, like I talk about on the show, I always wanted to be Connie Chung. I always wanted to have the microphone, and I wanted to do all these things. But my parents were immigrants, and, they were hard workers, but they didn't know a whole lot about American culture. And so I met some people along the way, like you did, that I guess saw something in me
mhm,
and invested their time. And that was the only way that I really knew, okay, yeah, we're in America. It's the American dream. I could be and do whatever I want to do. But I get stuck. I get stuck sometimes when bad things happen, and I just start, there's a word called just existing.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and your mind is not there, but your body is. And so you're just kind of going through the motions of life. And I've gone through that for a good period of time. So some of that I share with people. But I think that's great. You definitely have a mentor. And I'm like, you back to those mentors and say, thank you so much, because
Mhm.
that really changed my life. Look at what I'm doing now. So,
Absolutely. And I know you've done some amazing things with your business, and getting to this point as well. And I think that's such a valid point to make to the audience too, is find those people, and I don't know, I grew up very, very shy. I'm not sure about you, but I guess just because of some circumstances in my family. And so I just kind of kept to myself mostly. And um, asking for that help is hard. I think that's where I would say I get stuck. So not
yeah.
necessarily not knowing what to do, but admitting that I need help, because I am that type A personality, and I feel like I should have it all figured out. But honestly, ladies, none of us have it all figured out. And um, just asking for that support and that help, because there would be people, and I do have people since, becoming a principal and different things, that they'll come to me and they'll be like, will you mentor me? Will you, do these things with me? And that's how you know that you're making that impact, you
That's
know.
so amazing. I think that's amazing because, especially in education now, those kids are not getting that. They're not getting
Mhm.
that nurturing. They're not getting that mentorship. And so you're going to be able to get that phone call one day, or the book in the mail from that student, or
Mhm.
whatever. And that's so cool. And that's what I really miss about the education system now. I have kids that are going through, traditional school, and
Mhm.
it's tough. They don't have that. They don't have people that are investing in them. It's just a lot different than when I grew up.
Yeah, it can be. And I think education is challenging just all the way around right now. And, you know, you have to remember you're in it for a calling. Of course, I always tell people that it's not about the paycheck, that's for sure. And when you move up, like me as the principal, you don't get the summers off anymore. So it's not even about that, but it's about wanting to continue to make that difference and to see those kids flourish. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest compliments, and we're not necessarily talking about education today, but I think one of my biggest compliments ever is I have teachers now that I've hired who were my students,
Oh,
and
wow.
they wanted to work for me. So they learned
Yeah.
from me, went off to college, did their thing, and then came back and purposefully sought me out to hire them, and they're doing amazing things. So I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, and I think that's great too because you are so well versed with your experience and knowledge that you've gone through. I mean, just some of the stories that you told me, um, it's amazing because okay, they look like they have it all together, everything's perfect. People look at Facebook, Instagram, whatever. They don't know what you've gone through. They have no
Mhm.
idea. They just think who you are is what they see. And unfortunately, it's not like that. And you and I both have gone through some things. I know one of the things we talked about was, um, when you got a divorce. And so if you can share some of that story too, I know a lot of people would love to hear that and connect with it.
Absolutely. Yes. So I thought, growing up, because of, like I said, prior circumstances in my family, I didn't think I would have children. I knew I would probably eventually get married, but I just didn't want to bring children into the world if I didn't have the opportunities to give them my love and attention 100%. And a
Mhm.
lot of that stems from my relationship with my mom. But I found myself pregnant at 19, and I was just into my first year of college, and my ex-husband, her father, my daughter's father, he was still in high school. And it changed our path a little bit, but again, we didn't want it just to be about life determining things. But we did make the decision to get married because we wanted her to have her parents.
Yeah.
And 19 years later, to be honest, I never lived by myself. I went from living with my parents to living with my husband and our daughter. And 19 years later, I found out that we weren't going to continue in our marriage, and it was pretty public because many of the parents at my school where I was a principal worked for my ex-husband at his job, and he actually ended up with his secretary. They're married
Oh,
now,
wow.
and so it was pretty public, and that was challenging. And like I said, I'm very type A, and I'm a fixer, and
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have everything perfect, and like you said, everything looked perfect from the outside, but then on
Yeah.
the inside, of course, it was different. But I had to learn how to live by myself. I had to learn how to accept that the marriage failed because I was a people pleaser and a perfectionist
Yeah.
and all of the things. And it was a very challenging time. And I think that's really what put me on the path of moving in this direction to support women, because people don't know what you're going through unless they've gone through it.
Yeah.
And nobody in my circle had really gone through it. My parents, of course, but at that point in time, my mom had already passed on, and um, it was scary. I was scared. I was nervous. I was lost. And then I was grieving, and so was my daughter, and she was just into college at that point. So, I don't know if I was the best mom either at the time, just because you're going through all of those personal things, and, it makes you stronger on the other side once you get through it. But it can be something that can knock you down for a minute. But I had to remind myself, just as I started today's episode with, life isn't going to determine my next path.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't control what was happening, but I could control how I was responding. But how about you? I mean, I know you.
So that story really spoke to me when you first told me because it's a little different. I grew up with my parents and they were an arranged marriage. So I didn't know what a marriage really was supposed to look like. They fought all the time. And I never really saw them like I'll be brutally honest. When I met my husband, I had no idea what like being affectionate was. Like I didn't know how what a hug meant, which is bizarre.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
just didn't. My father showed his love in different ways, but it was more that love language with gifts. And yeah, they were affectionate, they were great together. they were just like a not a partnership, but they were just kind of existing. You could tell she wasn't happy, he wasn't happy, and so that was hard because that set the tone for what I thought a relationship was.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until my mom got very, very ill was the first time I felt like I saw them have a loving relationship. And what I mean by that is that my dad got to the point in her cancer that she couldn't do anything herself. Like she was very strong, healthy, and then just like that, she couldn't go take a shower herself, she couldn't get dressed herself. And so when she passed in November, and I think in April I realized something weird happened. I was at my mom and dad's house and his wallet fell on the floor. And I opened the wallet and there was this picture of this woman. And I'm like, who the heck is that? Like, because I hadn't recognized it. And I confronted him about it. And he said that he had been talking to this person. I could not even imagine that after just a short amount of time that he had already started the process of moving on with somebody else. It was that shocking. And so that was a really hard time for me to go through. I mean, and I don't know how your daughter felt, but I was just kind of like, your foundation is rocked to the core. You're like, wait a minute, do I even know this person? What happened? Same person that taught me who to be who I am. So I really, really struggled with that. That was a tough time between us because here I had lost my mom, and now I'm seeing a different side of my dad that I'd never seen before. So
Yeah, I know that when we have spoken, hearing you talk about that, it made me really realize this. And, you know, I think our greatest job ever in life is being a parent.
yeah,
And our kids look to us for everything.
yeah, they do. They really do.
Yeah, and it's just so important. And, we're human as well. And so that's where it becomes a challenge, because none of us are perfect. But, just like you said, your parents show you how everything in your mind is
Yep.
supposed to be for the future. And it's all you know. But,
Yeah, and it's weird. It's weird when you see people differently in that light. You're almost like, wait a
mhm,
minute, did I know that person? What happened? But somebody said to me, and this is where it really changed my mindset was, don't you want your dad to be happy? And I'm like, of course I do. Of course I but I just wasn't ready that fast so soon. And the person that he picked didn't eat was a completely opposite than my mom, so that was even
mhm,
harder.
yeah.
And so I couldn't connect with her being with my father because I saw him in a different light. And then I didn't know this person because I had been used to my mom so much. So we never really clicked like and became like, step family or whatever. I just
Mhm.
never really wanted anything to do with it. I don't know how to describe that, but that was
No,
just a very tough time. Do I want him to be happy? Of course. But I think the timing of it was just too soon after my mom died.
yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you, it's interesting that you say that from the perspective of being the daughter, because I always felt like, and my daughter and I have talked about this, like I said, she's 32 and in a great place now. But I think for a long time, she had a very difficult time with me getting into a relationship with somebody else.
Oh, really? She did?
She did. She really did. And I don't know if it's because her father got into his so quickly, and in her mind, because there was a period of time when they weren't talking as often, and it was all about the new family and not necessarily her. I don't know if
Yeah.
she was just afraid that that's what would happen if I got into a relationship. Um, and she was never one, to sabotage anything or anything like that. She's a
Yeah.
fantastic, person, but I think it is hard. I think that she just really had to get to a point where she could accept that, wow, my mom might be with somebody that's not my dad,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that has to be hard. I would imagine that she would be more open to you being with someone because then he started first. And so it's almost like, well, mom, you need to be happy. But I do understand if you do feel out of place, you kind of feel like
Hmm.
an orphan. You're like, wait a minute, this life that I
Hmm.
knew, I get it. My mom and dad are not together, but now I have they have other family and family dinner is different. And I mean, I was in my 20s and it was still hard. I felt like I was 6 years old
Yeah,
with my
absolutely. She was 20 when we had ours too, and yeah,
and
so
we had our own kids, and so it was hard for me to even wrap my mind around that, like
mhm.
I'm a mom. And so, it's interesting. It's interesting because it's funny to talk to my kids now, and their perspective is so different than what I think it's
Yeah,
going to be. So it's interesting to hear your daughter have that perspective and be able to be open to share that with you. So,
yeah, absolutely. And now she's at the point because it's been 12 years now, and she's at the point where she's like, "Okay, mom, we're gonna find you a really good guy, and you're gonna get married one day soon." And I'm just like, "Okay, let's just slow down a little bit."
yeah,
But she does want me to be very, very happy and live life, and that could mean in the future with someone, and it could mean that I'm fabulous and 50 and single. It just all depends. But I know that when you go through those hard times, I think it does help you put life into perspective, and you also set some standards,
yeah,
that maybe you would have accepted years ago that maybe I wouldn't accept now. And so, but that's going to be a whole nother show topic, I
I
think.
know, I know. Well, I have some friends that are single again after being married, and I always ask them. I try to live vicariously through them. I'm like, so what happened? Tell me the story. And everybody's on these different apps, and I'm like, what is that app for?
Oh,
And so they tell me about these disastrous dates and these disastrous people that they meet, and it's funny, but it's not funny. I'd be terrified to be single in this world.
yeah, it is a
So,
challenge. I will say that. And truly, I mean, that was another hurdle I had to go overcome because I met my ex-husband when I was 17, so it wasn't like I ever had
yeah.
adult dating relationships. But yes, and people do things different now, and it's a whole new world out there. Well, Julie, I have really enjoyed our time
You
together.
know,
I think that this has been amazing. And I know our viewers are probably going, oh no, the show's about to end and I don't want it to go. But is there any last minute advice or tips that you would give to my audience that just would keep them on a path of thriving instead of just surviving life?
yeah, so I always have that saying about thriving instead of just surviving. And one of my biggest tips would be, um, if you feel like you're getting stuck mentally and you can't get out of it, and you feel like you're just not yourself, ask for help. Get to that mentor, talk to somebody that can get you out of it, because everybody's perspective is different. And you do it listen, downtimes last with you mentally, but it can last for a while. And so you
Mhm.
don't want to get stuck where year goes by and you're just existing, you're just surviving. Fill your cup up. So how about you? What would you offer?
I love what you just said because definitely super important. And I would just say too, sometimes when things happen to us in life, like you said, it can get you down and it can get you to be stuck. But I always try to remember you can't control life. You can only control how you respond to it.
Mhm.
And even though it might be a tough situation going on, um, you can come out on the other side. You definitely can. And it just takes that grit and perseverance to get there. But you definitely can. And you're worth the time, the effort. You definitely are worth it. You know,
Yeah.
we're pretty powerful as women. And I just don't ever want us to forget our worth.
And support each other, support other women.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely that's key. So many people tear each other down. It's not even worth it. We're all trying to do something different. So,
absolutely.
but I
All
appreciate
right.
our time together.
Yeah, this was so much fun. So thank you for joining Confident, Courageous, and Clear with Sherry. And
Just Julie.
all right, we'll see you all next week.